Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video we have a Black Library review, and today we're going to be looking at the novel called The Twice Dead King Ruin by Nate Crowley. And so, this story, this is about a Necron overlord known as Altex. Altex is a nomarch of a particular dynasty of Necrons out in the world. Now, the dynasty he's a part of, he's a nomarch. He was a noble stripped of his rank due to some insidious means, and not necessarily, I guess, the most glamorous of ways to go down, but he was pretty much stripped of all rank. His nobility runes were sort of removed from him, and his punishment, he was sent out to this world called Seder, which we start our story on. We start our story learning about Altex and him sort of brooding and talking to himself on this world of Seder, which is like a fringe world in the colony. He's nowhere near the sort of core world of this Necron dynasty, where his brother and father both reside as part of the royal family of the Necrons. And so at the start we sort of start to get a bit of an insight onto who Altex really is. We get a look that he's this very sort of vengeance-seeking sort of character, and he's portrayed really, really well. I thoroughly enjoyed the story of Altex during this book, and we won't spoil anything out of like the first couple of paragraphs and like what to expect in some ways, but we'll try to remain completely spoiler-free so you can go enjoy this. Now, the big thing, probably as mentioned, it's written by Nate Crowley, but it's performed by Richard Reed, who I will say is one of my favourite Black Library narrators. Does a fantastic job in this. He did The Infinite and the Divine, which was the previous Necron novel, and so he does a fantastic job at narrating and just coming across. He does a good job at like mixing up all the different characters within the story, making them each sort of independent and really using his voice to display the words that are written on the paper by Nate really, really well. So, well done to both Nate and Richard in a fantastic performance. I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, mostly because it's easy to do this while I paint and do other stuff in the hobby. It's fantastic to have good audiobook readers like Richard, and some fantastic stories for them to read like this. Now, yeah, as I mentioned, Altex is a little bit interesting, though, as a Necron overlord, or a Necron lord, rather, in that he has these subminds implanted into him by one of his sort of advisors. They're these different sort of, I guess, versions of his own conscience implanted sort of particular parts of his brain, I would say is how to describe them, given full function over his body at times. So you have this one that's combat, which is everything he knows about how to fight. And when that combat submind overtakes, it gives him so much benefit because it clears his thought of anything else and just allows him to focus solely on combat. He's got this other one that's xenology that breaks down all these different aspects of like knowing what an orc is and knowing how they work, also looking at the subclasses of Necron warrior and how they sort of work, which is really cool. He's got a couple of others as well, but we'll leave them for you to find. But it's really fun, these sort of subminds, and you have this internal conversation within the character, which is really fun because all these different subminds talking about how to deal with situations along with him as the, I guess, culmination of all these different parts of his subminds coming together in this one. And it's really interesting sort of seeing the subminds work and how they do. And so the story generally is focused on one, Altex getting his revenge. He is very hellbent on getting revenge and just sort of becoming king. That is, I guess, his end game. But in this particular, there's a bunch of orcs threatening his planet, and it's pretty soon revealed that, in fact, it's an Imperial fleet pushing the orcs out of orc-held space, and thus the Imperials are going to come for them. What I will say in this book, and what's really interesting, and what it does well, is it actually gives the Necrons as the good guys. I feel connected to the characters in this book, which is really weird, like talking about how I feel, I guess, the connections towards immortal metal warriors that gave up their humanity to sort of try and defile the old ones. But it does a really good job at making them human, and I find that there's not a lot of Black Library novels out there that really focus on these other creatures being the good guys. I've read The Path of the Eldar was really cool, showing the Eldar as the good guys throughout that story was really great. And there's a couple of others, but this really just, for me, gave Necrons a really fantastic story part to the whole thing. They felt human, they felt relatable, and it does good parts of flashing back to the time before they were metal at points throughout the book as well, explaining how they sort of viewed their ways and all the things that happened, and also just showing that they were these, I guess, humanoid creatures at one point, the Necron tier. And so it does that really, really well. It just makes the Necrons relatable. It makes you feel for the characters within the story. And it just makes the Imperium the bad guys, which is fantastic in these stories. I always feel that 40k, that is one of the massive things that's lacking, is that these other races, some of them, like Tyranids, it's really hard to sort of understand, maybe except with like genes to the cult, you know, they're not sort of human. Orcs are always a little bit funny, but still, and, you know, it's really hard to relate to, like, these aloof Eldar beings as well at times, which the Path of the Eldar did a really good job at helping connect, and I feel that this one makes these immortal metal giants feel relatable, which is a fantastic part of the novel. If I would say the only thing I didn't find particularly great about the book is that the enemies never felt anything more. It was always sort of a secondary story. You never got to really focus on anything about the Imperium that was coming or the Orcs in general. It was always mainly about the Necron, but that, while that's a negative, that could have been like something added to the book to maybe give it that little bit extra length, but I feel that maybe that would have taken away from the overall story that we're trying to tell, this internal struggle within this Necron character. What's really interesting is that this is a story almost completely set out of wartime. There is barely any war in this novel, which is really weird for a 40k novel, and it's actually quite interesting that, like, all this Necron stuff, there's a lot of it done out of war, and it just gives you all these little insights into how Necrons work and stuff like that. And I mean, while listening to this, I painted up a whole 1,000 points of Necron warriors because or Necron army, I should say, because I really enjoy just listening to this audiobook, and it really made me want to play Necrons, which, I guess, if a Black Library book can hook you so much that you're wanting to paint and build that army, then it's doing a really good job at selling, I guess, the game and the universe to you, isn't it? In summary, though, I guess this was a really solid Necron story that really gave you an idea of who exactly the Necron tier were and what exactly their whole, I guess, thoughts and ideas were in the universe, and like how they view their new sort of life, their second life, if you will. Of an aside, and I guess I haven't mentioned this as well, is that a secondary part of this story that it really focuses on with the Necrons and how they sort of view the whole world is the curse. The curse of the flayed ones and how they start to try and eat flesh, they put flesh on them and all that sort of stuff. You really do get a good look at the curse within this novel, which is fantastic and just sort of shows how it affects the Necrons, and how other Necrons sort of view the cursed as well. You get to see a couple of other characters, things like some destroyers, and all that as well throughout the story. You get to meet Cryptek and some other warriors of various ranks, which is really cool, and you get to sort of see, like, I guess, what happens to everyone. But in general, like, it's mostly about that sort of story of this one Necron Lord, and he's sort of trying to do the right thing. He's a little bit different, I guess, for a Necron Lord, and you sort of start to learn that, but he is really relatable, and I would really love to read more books about Altex. He's a fantastic character, and I'm really interested to see if Nate gets a chance to write some more on this particular character, because it was really, really fun reading about Altex. I mean, last point, I guess, is who is this book for? If you're a Necron fan, this is a fantastic book for you. Could be a better time. I haven't yet read Infinite and the Divine, but that is definitely on the read list soon. I've heard fantastic things about it, and I would put this on any Necron player's read list, any 40k player's read list, mostly because it shows you a different side of the Necrons. They're not just the, I guess, relentless automatons that you maybe got shown in something like Fall of Damnos, where Necron lore wasn't quite as fleshed out, and they're just these sort of undying legions in that particular book, and they've been a lot more fleshed out as a race, and they've given a lot more character as a race now in these past few publications, which I find really fantastic. So if you're a Necron fan, a 40k fan in general, a Xenos fan, or even someone looking to get into 40k lore, I think this is a really great look at it, because it gives you a good side of the Necrons, and shows you sort of how they view the world and how they view themselves. And, well, in this book, they're the good guys, so it's really fun to just sort of go along that journey with them. So for me, this book is just fantastic. It would definitely rank in one of my more enjoyable 40k reads of late. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Really well done job, Nate, Crowley, and as I said, Richard Reed as well for the reading of it. You both did a fantastic job, Nate. Especially, this is a really enjoyable book, and I can't wait to see what you do next with Altex and his other characters in his story. If you've read this book, though, let us know in the comments below what you thought of it. Also, if you're a 40k lore nut and you're loving reading Black Library, definitely put some shout outs below of what we should check out next on the channel. If you really like to get your requests done, we do get requests over on our Patreon and YouTube members. You can request what Black Library books we do reviews of and what we think of them, so you can hit us up over there on either Patreon or YouTube members, linked in the description of the video, to get a request done for you. Thank you everyone for watching though. This has been a really enjoyable read, as said. Definitely go check it out. Fantastic job to everyone involved in getting this published and put together. Can't wait to see what's next from Black Library. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, drop us a comment in the video and let us know what you enjoyed about it as well. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Relatable Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video to our Discord server. You can come chat with me and other members. Lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by joining Patreon or YouTube members linked in the video's description, or by getting some merch from Teespring, also linked in the video's description. We'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel on Patreon and YouTube members, so a special shout out to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Alderon Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Adina226, Anton Nielsen, JJ Austrian, and Average Wargamer. And a shout out to our YouTube members as well: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Ziel, Chris Wallace, Turai12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, and Wolfric Nick. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does the amazing artwork you see on the channel. Everything here is done by her. She does an amazing job, so thank you very much. And lastly, a special shout out to Xmorphic, who does all the background work on the Discord server, keeps it running smoothly and makes it amazing, because I am terrible with computers. So thank you, Xmorphic, as well. That's it for today though, folks. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.